Hello YouTubers, this is Jeff. Today we're going to be servicing and bleeding the power steering system on the Ferrari 360. Most likely if you're doing this, you've usually changed the steering rack or changed the pump, but the pump procedure is a bit more thorough if you're changing the pump out. But after that's all been done, you would do this procedure. So let's go ahead and get started and I'll show you what I've done. Okay, now that we've gained access to the engine compartment and the power steering pump reservoir, so you're going to unscrew the cap here, and then if you know you have a lot of air in the system, or if you've actually broken into the system, you're going to fill this all the way up to the top as much as possible. So when you're doing this bleeding procedure, you don't empty the reservoir, because if you empty the reservoir, you'll introduce air in the system, and then you're defeating the purpose. So what you're going to do is you're going to fill the reservoir with, they call it a Shell product. The Shell product is hard to get to the US here. I'm using this Valvoline Max Life. It's automatic transmission. It's Dextron 3 ATF fluid, which is recommended. I mean, there's variables to this. I mean, different manufacturers, but it's Dextron 3. I think the Mercon they recommend also. You can look at a lot of references on what fluid to use, but the Shell is what they prefer on everything. But the Shell products are hard to come by here in the US. So anyway, you're going to service the reservoir till it's completely full, and then once you have the reservoir full, you're going to get into your car and don't start it, and then you're going to turn the key so you can unlock the steering column. So you can turn the steering column 5 full revolutions left to right, and then you're going to start the car. So another thing I did to make it easier is I took some of this board. It's like interior board. There's some sort of I call it Lexan, but so basically, I took this interior siding. It's like a board of some sort that I bought at Home Depot or Lowe's, and then I made like a sandwich out of it. So you can see I put it underneath both tires in the front. And then when you go to move your steering rack back and forth, it makes a slick surface, so you're not overstressing yourself turning the column back 4 or 5 times. So it kind of makes it easier for the tires to turn. So I did that, and then now we're going to move the steering wheel back and forth 5 times. It makes it a lot easier, believe me. So you just turn your key to the on position, and then you're going to turn the wheel back and forth 5 times. Okay, now that you've completed the 5 full revolutions of the steering column, you're going to want to start the car. So let's go ahead and start it. It'd help if I do the alarm. Alright, so once you start it, check your fluid. So once you start it, let it run for a few seconds, check your fluid. Make sure you have enough fluid in there while it's running. Well, I run it for maybe a minute, if that, and then turn it back off, reservice the fluid again back to the top, and repeat. With the car off, turn your steering wheel back and forth. You're going to turn your steering wheel back and forth 5 revolutions, and then repeat. Start it again, check your fluid. You may see some air bubbles in the system at this point. If you do, keep on repeating this step back and forth until the fluid level remains the same. So if your fluid level stops dropping and the bubbles are getting less and less, you're getting the air out of the system. So, but if there's a point to where you can't get the bubbles out, they recommend letting the car sit for about an hour and then repeating that steps over and over again until your level gets stabilized. Once your fluid gets stabilized, your bleeding procedure is done. At that point, you stick your cap in there, screw it on, pull it out, and it should be on the dipstick here, somewhere in the middle. You don't want to go any higher than that. That would be enough. So once your fluid is stabilized and there's no more bubbles in your fluid, your bleeding procedure is done. If your pump is making any noise, it's still got air in it. But if you can't hear your pump running and no more bubbles, you've completed the bleeding procedure for your power steering system. All right. So at this point, I think this concludes this video. If you got any questions, don't hesitate to ask. If you liked it, please give me a thumbs up. Tell your friends to subscribe. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe, and I'll catch you next time. Thanks.